Blinken says he and Chinese leaders agreed on need to stabilize US-China relationship. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Monday said that the United States and China had made progress on some of the key issues set out for his visit to Beijing and had agreed on the need to stabilize the relationship, but stressed improving bilateral relations would take time. "We're not going to have success on every issue between us on any given day, but in a whole variety of areas, on the terms that we set for this trip, we have made progress and we are moving forward," Blinken said at a news conference in the Chinese capital.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Moving forward, Blinken said at a news conference in the Chinese capital. "But again, I want to emphasize none of this gets resolved with one visit, one trip, one conversation. It's a process." Blinken is the first U.S. Secretary of State to visit Beijing in 5 years, and his talks with senior Chinese officials were seen as a key litmus test for whether some sort of détente can be forged at a time of lingering distrust. "I came to Beijing to strengthen high-level channels of communication, to make clear our positions and intentions in areas of disagreement, and to explore areas where we might work together on our interests, align on shared transnational challenges, and we did all of that," Blinken said at a news conference at the end of his trip to the Chinese capital Monday. He noted he had an important conversation with President Xi Jinping, and described his conversations with China's top foreign affairs advisor Wang Yi and Foreign Minister Qin Gang as candid, substantive, and constructive.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Conversations with China's top foreign affairs advisor Wang Yi and Foreign Minister Qin Gang as candid, substantive, and constructive. "We both agree on the need to stabilize our relationship," he said. The top U.S. diplomat said his conversations touched on the Ukraine war and North Korea, and that he raised U.S. concerns shared by a growing number of countries about the People's Republic of China's provocative actions to the Taiwan Strait, as well as in the South and East China Seas. He said the U.S. position on Taiwan has not changed and pressed China over human rights. Blinken emphasized in his remarks that the U.S. was not seeking an adversarial relationship with China. "There is a profound difference for the United States, and for many other countries, between de-risking and decoupling," Blinken said in explaining the U.S. interest in defusing potential confrontations. Blinken said China assured the US and other countries that it will not provide lethal aid to Russia, and we have not seen any evidence that contradicts that, though he noted that China's assurance was in keeping with repeated statements made in recent weeks. "What we do have ongoing concerns about, though, are Chinese firms, companies that may be providing technology that Russia can use to advance its aggression in Ukraine. And we've asked the Chinese government to be very vigilant about that," Blinken added. High-stakes meeting between Blinken and Xi. Uncertainty around whether Xi and Blinken would meet during the two-day visit further highlighted the fraught US-China relations, and a failure to schedule a face-to-face meeting would have been seen by Washington as a slight, breaking with a number of previous visits from top American diplomats. The meeting, which took place at Beijing's cavernous Great Hall of the People, was only publicly announced by the US about an hour before it went ahead. It lasted roughly half an hour, beginning at 4:34 p.m. local time and ended at 5:09 p.m., a State Department official said. "The world needs an overall stable Sino-US relationship, and whether China and the United States can get along has a bearing on the future and destiny of mankind," Xi told Blinken, according to a Chinese readout of the meeting. "China respects the interests of the United States and will not challenge or replace the United States. Similarly, the United States must also respect China and not harm China's legitimate rights and interests," Xi added. The readout said that Xi told Blinken that the world needs stable China-US relations and that the future of humanity hinges on both getting along. The two global powers have been increasingly at loggerheads over a host of issues ranging from Beijing's close ties with Moscow to American efforts to limit the sale of advanced technologies to China. Key among those concerns has been repairing fractured lines of communication, which have broken down over the past year, especially when it comes to high-level military exchanges, raising concerns in Washington that a mistake or accident could quickly spin into conflict. Earlier this year, a Chinese surveillance balloon that was detected floating across the U.S. and hovering over sensitive military sites before ultimately being shot down by an American fighter plane sent relations plunging to a new low and resulted in Blinken scrapping an earlier Beijing visit. This time, the diplomatic mission went forward. A choice needs to be made. A roughly 3-hour meeting between Blinken and Wang earlier Monday underscored the deep challenges in overcoming the mistrust and friction that has come to characterize the relationship. The Chinese government's growing clout internationally and increasingly authoritarian controls at home have pushed the U.S. to reframe how it manages its relations with the power in recent years. Repeating Beijing's typical rhetoric, Wang blamed Washington's wrong perception of China as the root cause of the decline in the two sides' relations and demanded the U.S. stop suppressing China's technological development and hyping the China threat, according to a readout from Chinese state broadcaster CCTV. We must reverse the downward spiral of China-US relations, promote a return to a healthy and stable track, and jointly find the right way for China and the United States to coexist in the new era, Wang said, adding that Blinken's visit came at a critical juncture in US-China relations, where a choice needs to be made between dialogue or confrontation, cooperation or conflict. Wang also reiterated that Taiwan is one of China's core interests, over which it has no room for compromise or back down. The self-ruling democratic island, which China's ruling Communist Party claims but has never controlled, has increasingly been another flashpoint in the US-China relationship. During the meeting, Blinken underscored the need for the countries to responsibly manage their competition through open channels of communication to ensure it does not veer into conflict, State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said in a statement. The U.S. would continue to use its diplomacy to stand up for the interests and values of the American people, Blinken said, according to the statement, which described the talks as candid and productive and said they including discussion of potential cooperation on shared transnational challenges. Advancing dialogue. Overall, Wang's comments took a more combative tone than those of China's Foreign Minister Qin Gang, who met with Blinken the previous day. Qin said both sides agreed to advance dialogue, exchanges and cooperation and maintain high-level interactions, according to a readout from Beijing. Blinken's Sunday meeting with Qin, which stretched more than 5 hours and then wrapped with a working dinner, resulted in progress on a number of fronts, with both sides showing a desire to reduce tensions, a senior State Department official told reporters Sunday. Profound differences between the U.S. and China, however, were also clear during the meeting, the official added. Neither side have mentioned concrete agreements so far. While Qin holds the title of foreign minister, he wields less power than Wang, who directs the country's foreign policy through his position among party's core leadership. Blinken's original scheduled visit in early February had been agreed on as a follow-up to an amicable face-to-face between U.S. President Joe Biden and China's Xi on the sidelines of the G20 in Bali in November. That meeting, the first in person between the two leaders as presidents, was seen a pivotal step in restoring certain lines of communication, which Beijing last year severed following a visit from then-US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan. Both the US and China have played down expectations of a major breakthrough during Blinken's visit. Ahead of the meeting, Washington was careful to manage expectations, with a senior State Department official last week telling reporters that he does not expect a long list of deliverables. Meanwhile, both sides are also navigating how the meetings play to their respective domestic audiences. In the U.S., how strongly to counter China has become the topic of heated political debate, with some lawmakers slamming the Biden administration for sitting down with Beijing. China views Washington as actively trying to thwart its development, and is also very much aware the U.S. is headed into a presidential election cycle, where hawkish rhetoric against it may intensify further. Its officials also meet Blinken in an environment where China's state media and official rhetoric have long portrayed Washington as a bad faith actor responsible for destabilizing ties. The US and China have played down expectations of a major breakthrough during Blinken's visit. Ahead of the meeting, Washington was careful to manage expectations, with a senior State Department official last week telling reporters that he does not expect a long list of deliverables. Meanwhile, both sides are also navigating how the meetings play to their respective domestic audiences. In the US, how strongly to counter China has become the topic of heated political debate, with some lawmakers slamming the Biden administration for sitting down with Beijing. China views Washington as actively trying to thwart its development, and is also very much aware the US is headed into a presidential election cycle, where hawkish rhetoric against it may intensify further. Its officials also meet Blinken in an environment where China's state media and official rhetoric have long portrayed Washington as a bad faith actor responsible for destabilizing ties. State media and official rhetoric have long portrayed Washington as a bad faith actor responsible for destabilizing ties.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Canada's ambassador to China says nations must cooperate despite strained relationship. With relations between Canada and China strained, Canada's ambassador to China says the nations must find areas of cooperation in order to further conversations on important bilateral issues. We have to make sure that we're extending the hand, that we're finding the areas of cooperation where we can and where it makes sense, said Jennifer May, Canada's ambassador to China, in an interview on Rosemary Barton Live. At the same time, we have the open and frank dialogue on difficult issues and that we stand up for ourselves where we have to do that too.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Dialogue on difficult issues and that we stand up for ourselves where we have to do that too. May said Canada must take a varied approach to its relationship with China to make progress on files such as trade and climate change, but she points out that this can be hard to do as Canadians are increasingly losing trust in the relationship, particularly due to claims of foreign interference. Citing unnamed national security sources, The Globe and Mail and Global News have reported that Beijing has deployed operations meant to influence and interfere in Canadian politics, including the 2019 and 2021 elections. Those operations allegedly have included attempts to intimidate and influence members of parliament and fund political candidates, among other claims. Tit-for-tat diplomatic expulsions. In May, the federal government expelled Chinese diplomat Zhao Wei, who was accused of targeting Conservative MP Michael Chong. We will not tolerate any form of foreign interference in our internal affairs, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly said in a statement in May. Diplomats in
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Any form of foreign interference in our internal affairs, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly said in a statement in May. Diplomats in Canada have been warned that if they engage in this type of behavior, they will be sent home. Zhao reportedly played a role in attempts to gather information on and intimidate Chong's family in Hong Kong in 2021 following the MP's condemnation of Beijing's conduct in the Xinjiang region as genocide. In a tit-for-tat response, China expelled a Canadian diplomat in Shanghai. May said this is often the way these situations play out, but it is still regrettable and has had a negative impact on the relationship between Canada and China. On Tuesday, the RCMP said it will be investigating the allegations that China attempted to target and intimidate Chong and his family. Commissioner Mike Tuham said this case is one of more than 100 investigations the RCMP has opened on foreign interference. Canada must respond, whether privately or publicly, to claims of intimidation campaigns by China on Canadians, said May. There are different ways to do this. The RCMP is one, diplomatic channels are another. Positive aspects of countries' relationship overshadowed. It's really important that we are taking action, that we are conveying that back to the Chinese, she said. Because it's also extremely important that Canadians have trust in their democratic institutions and systems. With the issue of foreign interference top of mind for Canadians, May says the development of the important positive aspects of the Canada-China relationship are hindered. She points to the Indo-Pacific strategy and the importance of China as a market for Canadian businesses, as well as bilateral agreements on mitigating climate change and supporting clean growth. May said it is important for the two nations to maintain their relationship in light of their differences and try hard to foster better channels of communications. If we only talk to people with whom we are in full agreement, we'd be having a dialogue with ourselves most of the time, she said. You can watch Rosemary Barton Live's full interview with Jennifer May, Canada's ambassador to China, on Sunday, June 18 at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Talk to people with whom we are in full agreement, we'd be having a dialogue with ourselves most of the time, she said. You can watch Rosemary Barton Live's full interview with Jennifer May, Canada's ambassador to China, on Sunday, June 18 at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. a.m. Eastern Time.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Migrant groups urge reform of Australia's broken skills recognition process. Mohammed Zubair Harouni has been trying and failing to get a job in his field since he arrived in Australia nearly 18 months ago. While Harouni has a glittering CV, with more than 20 years of experience in public health in Afghanistan, including work as a UN program specialist in HIV, his biggest obstacle has been his status as a recent migrant.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
His biggest obstacle has been his status as a recent migrant. He is one of the many who have struggled to have their qualifications recognized in Australia, with 1 in 4 migrants working beneath their skill level. I have applied for several positions within the health sector and it has been rejection after rejection, says Harouni, a father of 4. It's been really frustrating because my qualifications have not been considered since my arrival. Not even my master's degree, which was actually completed in Australia, has made a difference. Only 33% of permanent arrivals in Australia have had their post-school qualifications recognized, even as Australia faces a crippling national skills shortage, with approximately 350,000 skill job vacancies across the country. It can be an arduous task to get.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
350,000 skill job vacancies across the country. It can be an arduous task to get overseas qualifications recognized in Australia. The Productivity Commission in 2006 described it as complex, time-consuming, and bureaucratic process. And it has forced Harouni to turn to other options, including taking an entry-level role at Transport NSW, a job he says he is happy for but doesn't reflect what he can do. I'm really thankful for my job, but within myself I am not feeling happy that I am not working in my profession, which is what I have dedicated most of my life to, he says. It has affected all parts of my life. I've had no income for the last year. I couldn't rent a house, and the stress was having a negative impact on my health. So I just had to take any role. A new report from a consortium of migrant advocacy and service groups is calling for reform to get more migrants into suitable jobs that will ease labor supply issues as 286 occupations face shortages. The consortium, comprising Settlement Services International, the Australian Council of Social Service, ACOS, Amnesty International, Settlement Council of Australia and Community Corporate, proposes 5 solutions. These include fixing the broken skills and qualifications recognition system, strengthening protections for migrant workers, reviewing the right to work for people on temporary visas, building partnerships between public and private sectors, and reforming English language requirements. Violet Rumliadis, the CEO of Settlement Services International, said the proposed reforms would be a win-win-win for migrants, employers, and the economy. These ideas could have a significant impact on their lives. We have so many cases of doctors or dentists or lawyers who are Uber drivers because they need the money and can't get their qualifications recognized, Rumliadis said. They become de-skilled, they become demoralized and lose motivation. It can be a real struggle for them and their families, particularly when they know they can work in a role they are skilled in and can be paid well. She said the current system for recognizing overseas qualifications was a cumbersome and confusing process, and as a result only a third of permanent arrivals get through it. It's around 34 different authorities that govern around 400 professions. Rumliadis said there are also often cultural barriers to employment and qualification recognition, such as racism. We've got recruiters who tell us there is, unfortunately, a racist element here, she said. There are some who insist they don't want to hire people from particular backgrounds, or people with names they can't pronounce. It's a toxic attitude. Mohan Gunneswara, the acting CEO at Western Sydney Migrant Resource Centre, MRC, said the cost of qualification recognition should also be reformed. It can cost thousands of dollars to have some skills assessed, with some occupations requiring multiple tests that can multiply the cost, Gunneswara said. And it acts as a disincentive, it leaves people behind. Mohan Gunneswara, the acting CEO at Western Sydney Migrant Resource Centre, MRC, said the cost of qualification recognition should also be reformed. It can cost thousands of dollars to have some skills assessed, with some occupations requiring multiple tests that can multiply the cost, Gunneswara said. And it acts as a disincentive, it leaves people behind. Incentive, it leaves people behind.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Milestone in our relations, 5 things Foreign Secretary said on PM Modi's US visit. Ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's official state visit to the United States, Foreign Secretary Vinay Mohapatra on Monday said that it will be a milestone in the relationship between India and US. Addressing a press conference, he also said that all aspects of defense co-production and co-development will be part of the discussions between PM Modi and US President Joe Biden. Here are the top 5 things Foreign Secretary Vinay Mohapatra said on PM Modi's visit. It is a milestone in our relationship between the two countries. It is a very significant visit, a very important visit. It will be a visit in which there is a genuine and widespread deep interest in the United States.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
It will be a visit in which there is a genuine and widespread deep interest in the United States. One of the key components which will be prominently showcased during PM Modi's visit will be bilateral defense cooperation. The second key component will be strong trade and investment partnerships, while the third will be the technology component which interfaces with many other domains, telecom, space, manufacturing, and investment. On PM Modi's first day of arrival to Washington, D.C., he will attend an event that would focus on scaling for the future, and bring out key complementarities and the objectives that both systems seek to promote and achieve. On June 22, there will be 4 to 5 key components: a ceremonial welcome at the White House, a set of bilateral meetings, the PM's scheduled address to the U.S. Congress, and a ceremonial state dinner. Bilateral meetings, the PM's scheduled address to the U.S. Congress, and a ceremonial state dinner.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Kenya signs EU trade deal boosting Brussels ties in Africa. Kenya and the European Union signed a trade agreement on Monday at a ceremony in Nairobi, the first major deal since 2016 with an African country where Brussels is seeking to forge closer economic ties and counter Chinese appetite. Kenya and the European Union have signed a trade deal in a coup for Brussels as it seeks deeper economic ties with Africa in the face of competition from China. Kenyan President William Ruto presided over a ceremony in Nairobi on Monday to mark the formal conclusion of negotiations for the EU-Kenya Economic Partnership Agreement. Once ratified and entered into force, Kenya will receive duty-free and quota-free access to the EU, its biggest market where it sends roughly one-fifth of all its exports.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Quota-free access to the EU, its biggest market where it sends roughly one-fifth of all its exports. Imports from the EU to Kenya such as chemicals and machinery will receive progressive tariff reductions over a period of 25 years, but some sensitive products will be excluded. Today is a very proud moment for Kenya, and I believe a very proud moment for the European Union, Kenyan Trade Minister Moses Kuria said after signing the accord with EU Trade Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis. Kenya's main exports to the EU are agricultural products, including vegetables, fruits, and the country's famous tea and coffee. More than 70% of Kenya's cut flowers are destined for Europe. Ruto, who said the EU was the second most important development partner for Kenya after the World Bank, said the country's farmers could be assured of a predictable market and the agreement provides new opportunities to boost this trade. It ensures a stable market for industrialists, for our farmers, and also industrialists in the European Union, he said. Dombrovskis said EU companies had invested €1 billion, $1.1 billion, in Kenya in the past decade, but that there was a strong appetite to do more.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Said EU companies had invested €1 billion, $1.1 billion, in Kenya in the past decade, but that there was a strong appetite to do more business. With this deal in place, we have the right platform to do so, he said. It is the first broad trade deal between the EU and an African nation since 2016 and follows a spending spree by China on lavish infrastructure projects across the continent. The EU has taken steps to counter China's Belt and Road program, announcing in February it would increase investments in Kenya by hundreds of millions of dollars through its own Global Gateway initiative. It is part of a trend of African nations being wooed by Western partners in recent years as Russia and China increasingly gain a foothold in Africa. Dombrovskis said the East African powerhouse was a beacon of dynamism and opportunity, echoing the international perception of Kenya's relative stability in what remains a turbulent region. In a briefing with reporters before Monday's ceremony, Dombrovskis said Africa was a priority region for the EU, and he hoped the Kenya deal would be a boost to future trade links with Africa. The Kenya deal is the culmination of trade talks between the EU and the East African Community, EAC, that started roughly a decade ago. In 2014, the EU and the EAC, then Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, and Tanzania finalized negotiations for an economic partnership agreement, but only Nairobi ended up ratifying it. Kenya went its own way, but Dombrovskis said the agreement remained open for other members of the EAC, which now includes the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Sudan, to join. Ratifying it. Kenya went its own way, but Dombrovskis said the agreement remained open for other members of the EAC, which now includes the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Sudan, to join.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Prime Minister Chris Hipkins to meet with China's President Xi Jinping. New Zealand Prime Minister Chris Hipkins' office has confirmed he will meet with China's President Xi Jinping during his trip to the country next week. He is also lined up to meet with Premier Li Qiang, and Chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress Zhao Leji. Hipkins, who announced the trip a week ago, will be joined by a 29-strong business delegation and Te Huana'a Apanui, champions of Te Matatini.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Te Huana'a Apanui, champions of Te Matatini. His trip will include stops in Beijing, Tianjin, and Shanghai, with events including a sustainability forum, a gala dinner, giving a keynote address at Peking University, and attending the World Economic Forum annual meeting of new champions. In Shanghai he will launch a tourism partnership, attend sector and business events, and meet with senior Shanghai leadership. He will be joined by Trade and Export Growth Minister Damian O'Connor, and Tourism Minister Peeni Henare. China represents nearly a quarter of all our exports, was our second largest source of tourists pre-COVID and is a significant source of international students, so it's
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
second largest source of tourists pre-COVID and is a significant source of international students, so it's a critical part of our economic recovery, Hipkins said. This is a particularly timely opportunity to promote New Zealand's tourism industry with direct airline connectivity out of China expected to return to around 75% of pre-COVID levels in the June quarter of 2023. He said he planned to discuss climate change, economic stability, regional and global security, human rights, and the war in Ukraine in his meetings with officials. The export of traditional goods like dairy, meat, and wood to China remain important, but it's critical we also throw our support behind emerging sectors such as gaming and health and wellness, and the makeup of the delegation reflects our objective of diversifying the breadth of our export offering. The delegation is expected to leave on Sunday, returning to New Zealand on Friday, June 30th. The delegation is expected to leave on Sunday, returning to New Zealand on Friday, June 30th.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.